Hi, I'm Beth. Welcome to my channel and welcome to this yin yoga practice. For today's practice, I'm going to be using a chair. This is an adapted practice from the book Brightening Our Inner Skies Yin Yoga by Norman Blair. It's a wonderful book. I'll link to it down below so you can check that out for yourself. In the book, they don't use a chair, so that's the adapted part of this practice. I'm going to go right into the first pose, and as I'm in that pose, I'll say a little bit more about yin yoga. So we're going to use the chair for our constructive rest pose. Our calves will be on the chair. You might want a blanket or towel or something over the seat of your chair. You can also use a couch. So you're going to help yourself close to your chair. You might have to scooch a little bit back on your arms, your upper arms, so that you can get your calves up on the chair. You can absolutely adjust the blanket underneath if you'd like. And you're going to find a position where your calves are comfortably resting on the chair. Your legs are about at a 90-degree angle. Now for some people, a chair, depending on the height of the chair, may be too high. You can absolutely use a step stool, a small box, anything that's lower, maybe an ottoman. So we're looking for comfort of our legs. And once you get into the pose, you can scooch around to make space for your lower back. Sometimes I like to tick my pelvis up a little bit and then settle it back down so my lower back feels comfortable against the ground. Arms can rest by your side. They can rest on your body. So we get the bit of fidgeting out in the beginning, and then we start to grow quiet in the pose. So the goal of yin yoga, or one of the goals of yin yoga, is to settle our body in a quiet space. And then we're looking from that quiet space for some soothing of the mind. Now also in yin yoga, we are generally targeting a specific area of the body for some stretch. Here in this pose, this is a pretty supportive pose, so there's not going to be a lot of stretch. But what you might feel is something with your lower body being supported and allowing it to release a little bit in this way. Some of the other postures we'll do, you'll notice the stretch a little more. And then the last part of the yin yoga practice is we stay in these postures and we hold for time. And that time can vary, usually about 2 minutes or so minimum. It can be anywhere up to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or even longer. So when we find the stretch, we're looking for a sense of a Goldilocks stretch, meaning not an extreme stretch, and also not zero stretch. So the Goldilocks stretch is the place where we can stay and feel a sustained stretch for our designated period of time. Now, as I said, this is just an opening preparation. We're going to stay here a little longer. You might see me looking at my clock here. We'll stay here another minute or two, and we'll simply start to tune into our breath. Have your head in a relaxed position as well. And draw your attention to wherever you can feel the breath in the body. You might notice it at the nostrils, at the chest. This is a nice place to use your hands over the lower abdomen or lower ribs. See if you can feel some gentle movement of breath into your hands. So if I touch my fingertips together, as I breathe in, the movement of my breath slides my fingers apart, and maybe you can see that on me. And then as I exhale, the emptying of my abdominal cavity draws my fingertips closer together. So I'm absolutely not trying to force that movement of my fingers. It just happens naturally as I breathe in and out. If you're not feeling the breath in your belly, that's fine. The abdominal or deeper diaphragmatic breath can be more relaxing. And so it's worth putting in some effort, maybe outside of your yin practice, to practice this type of breathing For now, wherever you're breathing comfortably is a perfect place to be breathing. Okay, take about 3 more mindful breaths. And for my purposes, mindful simply means following the breath as it comes in your body and following the breath as it leaves your body. And after your third breath, we're going to move into our next pose. Our next pose is going to be first just rolling the knees in, and we'll put our feet on the edge of the chair. You might have to scooch back a little bit like I just did, so you can draw the knees in relatively close to your chest. Now they can be further apart, closer together. This is just a transitional moment in between poses. You'll note that my chair is on my mat, and that's going to help when I have my feet against my chair from pushing the chair out, my feet sliding off the chair. You can also have the chair backed up against a wall. So take 3 mindful breaths in this position, and here you might feel your belly pressing up against your thighs as you breathe in. If you have your legs wider, you might have the space for your belly in the middle. And then from here, we'll move into a thread the needle pose. For this, we want to be so that our feet or our legs are more in a 90-degree angle with the knees above my hips. I'm not quite there, so I'm going to come up a little bit and scooch away from the chair. You might totally want to come up and move yourself away, or you can move the chair. I'm also going to take my little towel out of the way. Okay. So now I can rest my feet on the edge of the chair and my knees are more in a 90-degree angle. And you can even move further away if that's better for you. In fact, I think I'm going to scooch just a little bit more. And then I'm going to take my right ankle and hook it over the top of my left knee. I can adjust my foot in that position. I can put my right hand lightly on the top of this leg to move it away. And in fact, I like to move it back and forth a little bit. That will help you find your Goldilocks spot. Remember, our Goldilocks spot is definitely not our 100% stretch. That's like trying to sustain a sprint for an entire marathon. So I'm going to take my leg out to where maybe I can feel some sensation, 50-60%, not much more than that. And then we'll stay for time here. Most of the poses we hold, we're going to hold about 2 minutes. And as I said, that's about the minimum of yin time. I find that when teaching this over video, that's about a minimal amount of time that works for a video. In class, I would probably hold for longer in a live class. You can absolutely hit the pause and hold for longer if there's any of these poses that you like. A yin practice can be 1 or 2 poses. You might return your attention to your breath. Again, your hands can go on your body if you'd like. If your mind starts to wander, you can also draw your attention back to where you're feeling that sensation. And this pose is most likely somewhere in your outer hip, your glute. Remember that we're trying to sustain that sensation. And so there's 2 main things that can happen as we hold for time. One is the sensation can start to build. Suddenly a place that was comfortable no longer becomes comfortable. And that's our body's cue to back off the pose a little bit. So I might have to move my knee in closer to my body. The other thing that can happen is you found your perfect stretch, but as you're here for a while, you lose the sense of sensation. It's no longer feeling like a stretch for you. You're no longer having a stress to the muscles that we're trying to target. And so in that case, you might find you have space to move your leg a little bit further, move into a slightly different position. We're always going really slowly in yin, moving by small increments so that we can gauge where that next step is for you. You have the option of closing your eyes in any of these yin poses. If you choose to keep them open, you still want to direct your attention internally. All right, let's take 1 or 2 last breaths on this side. We move out of the yin posture slowly as well. You can use your hands to help guide your leg out of this pose. Take a moment. Take a moment with both feet here, or maybe place your feet on the side of the chair and do a few gentle windshield wipers. This gives us a chance to observe the effects of the pose, sometimes called the rebound. And you can also be simply still. Just notice the rebound, notice anything differently going on the side that you stretched. And then we'll switch to the second side. So you may have to adjust, feet come back to the edges of the chair. And then we take the second foot, whatever your second foot is. I'm just using my hand to help me guide that into place. And then once I get there, I might again have to scooch a little bit. I'll take the knee forward or back and forth a few times, simply exploring where the stretch shows up for me. Every single person's body is different. And then when I find a spot where I think that, okay, this is a bit of a stretch, seems significant that I can hold for maybe 2 minutes, I'll stay here. And then that's my opportunity to direct my attention back to my breath. You'll notice throughout this class that I don't direct you to what the pose looks like externally. In yin, that is absolutely not important. It's not an alignment-based practice. How it looks on the outside is really irrelevant. Yin is a feel-based practice. It's a functional-based practice. And so it's all about how it feels in your own body. And I can tell you, I'm starting to feel a little bit of intensity in this part of my glute as I stay here. I know that that's part of my side that sometimes gets overstretched for me. So to stay here about another minute, I'm going to back off of that stretch a little bit, find a spot that's not as intense, that I can stay for another minute or so. Now this pose, you might know it from Hatha yoga classes as Reclined Pigeon. I've heard it called both thread the needle and eye of the needle. The names of the postures are different in yin yoga. And that's partly to help our brains adapt to practicing differently than we would in a vinyasa class, a hatha yoga class, basically any type of more yang yoga class. All right, let's take one more breath here. And then maybe use your hands to help that leg down. And this time, let's take both feet down to either side of the chair, and let's take a moment, a rebound moment. That's simply a time to observe. So you're staying in a few moments of stillness, noticing any changes. If, as you come out of a yin pose, there is anything sharp, a discomfort that's building after you're in the pose, that suggests that you went a little too far for your body And that's telling you the need to back off. So that's a way to explore it in different poses. One more breath here. And then we're going to roll to one side. I'm going to roll toward you. And move ourselves up to seated facing the chair. So you'll sit facing the chair and you'll cross one shin in front of the other. This is my right shin in front. You can do it whichever way you want. I'm going to scooch around so that I have pretty good contact with my sits bones on the ground. You absolutely can sit on your small towel or a blanket or blocks. I might need to slide the chair a little bit close. So this is going to be, this is cross-legged forward fold. Cross-legged is a version of square pose. It's another type of pose in yin that targets the hips. We're going to fold forward from the hip joints. We also get a little stretch in the back. And then we'll rest the upper body on the chair. You can have the chair closer or further away. That's what you might have to adjust. And you can have something soft on top of the chair, even a pillow if you'd like. So you start upright with one shin crossed in front of the left. Take a breath in. Start to fold forward. And you might start that as a hinge. And then when you reach the chair, wherever you're going to rest, you can allow some rounding in your upper back. Now I'm looking at the camera, so I am going to be looking toward you. That's certainly not necessary. You can have your chair further away and perhaps only rest your forehead on the chair. You can have your chair closer, maybe even your torso comes or your chin comes a little more toward the chair. Remember, it doesn't have to look in any certain way. The area we're trying to target here is whatever leg is in front. So again, it's my right leg. Somewhere similar to the last pose we did, that outer hip, that glute area. For this pose, I even feel it travel a little bit toward my lower back. Definitely a place that many of us need to stretch. We'll be in this pose for about 3 minutes total. That was about 1 minute. You can stack your arms in any position, so you can have them stacked like I do with your head to one side. If you choose to turn your head to one side, unlike me, where I'm going to keep my head on this one side the whole time, you'll want to change your direction of your head to the other side when we switch to the other leg. And once again, when we're here, we can close the eyes if we'd like. We can send the awareness of the breath to the areas of the body that are being targeted or receiving a stretch. We can continue to keep our attention on that area to make sure that as we stay, and we have about 1 more minute left, that tension stays at a pretty even level. Of course, it's going to go up and down a little bit. That's natural. If it drops off, then that might be your cue to lean a little bit more forward. See if you can refine that stretch. If it starts building, absolutely come a little more upright. And for most of us, coming more upright will lessen the stretch a bit. And I did feel a bit of intensity there, so I'm going to stay here for the last 30 seconds or so. One more mindful breath in this position. Use your arms, help yourself up, and take your legs under the chair if you have room. If it's a couch, of course you might not have room. Give them a little shake out. We'll go to the other side and we'll take a moment to observe after the second side. So opposite leg comes front. For me, it's my left. You can draw your inside foot right foot for me, closer to your groin. And I have this left foot fairly close to the right. Another option is to have it further away. So the adjusting part is simply where you feel the stretch. And then bring your chair in closer or further, depending on where you need it to be. Take a moment to sit upright. Start to hinge forward from the hips. Adjust the chair to wherever it needs to be on this side. And then rest your arms. Or maybe you simply choose to rest your chin or your head without resting your arms on the chair. Now, some ways to make sure that you're stretching at a level that is a little uncomfortable. So we're stressing muscles, particularly some of the smaller accessory muscles. That's really what we're trying to target in yin. Our large muscles get worked all the time. So we're trying to get at some of the smaller, more connective tissues. And so in order to do that, it might be a little uncomfortable. It's a little step out of the comfort zone. It's also called a comfortable amount of discomfort. That's okay. If it starts to get into pain that feels more sharp, more very localized, more pinching, hot, all of those things, that's the kind of bad pain that we're trying to avoid in really any kind of exercise. If we feel sort of a dull, diffuse, spread over a large area kind of ache, that's not pain, that's more a good little push out of our comfort zone. And you'll notice I didn't go into this pose as far on the second side as I did on the first, mainly because it's my left side here that feels pretty tight. So I feel plenty of sensation keeping it a little more upright. And I've pretty much been sustaining that same level of sensation for this whole posture. If you do have a tight side, and we usually do, we use our bodies asymmetrically, you may even want to stay longer on that side. In yin, you do not have to have both sides be equal. You can stay longer on the side that needs it. All right, this is our last breath on this side, unless you're staying, of course. And then help yourself up. And for a moment, bend the knees. You can rest back on your hands. And feel. We feel, we observe. This feedback that you get at the end of a pose can help you adjust the next time you do that pose. If you feel a sense of release, of comfort, of euphoria, well, you hit the right spot for you. All right, our next posture is going to be dragonfly. Dragonfly is a wide-legged seated forward fold. So we're going to take our legs to the outside of the chair and spread them as wide as feels comfortable for you. Here's another place that you might want to sit up on something, just if it's uncomfortable. Position of the legs, unlike if we were doing Hatha yoga, where this pose is Uttanasana Konasana, or a wide angle pose, we don't have to have the legs in a certain position. We can have the knees bent, we can have the feet flopping out. I've got a little stuff going on with this knee right now, so the feet flopping out feel better to me. Find that position first, and just like we did for the cross-legged forward fold, we'll adjust our chair so that you can begin to allow the body to come forward. And actually, I'm changing my mind about where I want my legs. I want them a little more bent. And then I'm going to bring my leg forward. And same thing, we're going to find a rest place for our arms, our head, or you might stay here. You might stay more up. It can be nice to simply have your forehead, the edge of your forehead. I think that's where I'm going to be. So you find that for you. This pose really targets, again, across the lower back. You may well still feel it in the area of your glutes, around your hips, and you might feel something in your inner thighs as well. The instructor I took yin with, she said, if you get all of those places, you've hit the jackpot of this pose for you. And it might take you a while to find that. Remember, you do your exploration in the first few moments of the pose, and then you try to allow your body to be quiet, to go for stillness in this pose. Now, of course, if you reach that point where your little bit of discomfort is becoming too uncomfortable and veering off into pain, absolutely you move. So adjustment is definitely part of the postural practice of yin. But we adjust, we move, maybe I move my chair a little closer, and then we seek the quiet spot once again. You'll also notice I'm wearing my glasses. That's so I can see my notes, so I can see the clock. If you have glasses, I recommend putting them aside. You don't need them for these poses. In fact, you can listen to my voice without seeing me, at least after the beginning opening setup. And it can make it easier to rest your head against something without having your glasses in the way. I think we'll hold this pose for almost another minute, a little bit longer in this pose. Partly because it's symmetrical. We can absolutely hold symmetrical poses longer than asymmetrical when we go from one side to the other. And also this forward fold can bring a sense of relaxation and release. It helps to stimulate a relaxation response in the body. It's going to be really soothing for the mind. If you're not getting that from this pose, nothing wrong with you, not your pose. That's why there are so many poses in yin, and we can adjust the practice as we need. Now remember, in this last moments, maybe you need to adjust your legs closer together in order to stay. And that's what I'm going to do. So the adjustments in yin are simply to help us stay, to help us find the level of the pose that we can remain in for the time we've designated. With your attention on your breathing, go through 2 more cycles of inhale and exhale. And then start to help yourself up. Once again, you might want to either straighten your legs or bend your legs, taking a moment to feel. For our next pose, we're again going to be lying down. Feet are going to be on the chair. This time, the soles of our feet are going to be together, knees open in a butterfly pose. And you might also know this as other names like bound angle, cobbler's pose. It's generally called butterfly in yin. I'm going to scooch a little closer to the chair. And I'll put just the feet up, taking my soles together and letting my knees open out. So this is a little bit different. There's a lot of ways to practice this pose. A different way that releases some of the gravity off of our hips. It's not as intense a stretch for the inner thighs. We're still trying to produce some sensation somewhere around the hips. And then once you find that sensation, and you might even take it down another notch, because this is our second to last pose. So as we're winding down, absolutely, if you've had enough stretch, you really have felt the target areas, perhaps now is the time to be a little softer in your practice. And to only, maybe that stretch goes from 50% to 20, 30%. You can return your hands to the area of your belly, just like we did at the start. Some might find it soothing to have one hand over the belly button, the lower ribs, other hand over the sternum or chest. Think of this top hand as a little bit of nourishment, kindness that you're offering toward yourself. Practicing yin in and of itself can be an act of self-kindness, self-compassion. Feel that kind wish for yourself here. Remember that at any point you can adjust. Perhaps your arms are tired in the position that you had them in. You might choose to rest them by your side. We'll be here another minute. Know that anytime your mind wanders away in yin, just as in life, that is a natural thing. The mindful part of our practice is we notice we've wandered, we notice we've changed directions to wander somewhere off the mat. And with kindness, with that compassion for ourselves, we simply draw our attention back the same way you would guide a puppy. Gentle, drawing ourselves back. Okay, we're ready to transition to our last pose. Our last pose is going to be a rest. We're going to go back to our constructive rest, same place we started the practice. We'll allow our shins to rest over the chair. My toes stick out the back of the chair. Yours might be different. You can be further away if you'd like. I like to scooch a little closer. Again, tuck my tail a little bit so that my low back can feel comfortable against the ground. Your legs can be floppy if you'd like. If you don't want them to be floppy but don't want to put a lot of effort into holding them together, wrap a blanket around your shins. Not only will that help keep you warm, but it'll help you gently keep your legs in this position. You don't have to put much effort into sustaining. When we rest, we're trying to release our effort. So here, one last time, find a place of stillness for your body. Perhaps you put socks on before you did this last pose so that you can be warm and you can cover yourself with a blanket. Yin is a practice that we don't do a lot of warm up for before we move into the postures, because we want our larger muscle groups to actually be cold. Having the muscles not warmed up helps us to target those little connecting tissues, those smaller muscles in between, the ligaments, the bones, all that stuff that we're trying to target in the yin practice. If the muscles, like say my quadricep, large muscles on the top of my legs, or my glute muscles are really warmed up, they are just going to take over. And they're going to say, yes, I got this, I'm a strong muscle. And we're not going to get into the unique benefits of yin as much. So I'm going to stay here with you for another minute. After that, I'll start to transition out. You are welcome to stop watching and stay as long as you like. As long as it's comfortable, this is a wonderful place to rest 15 or 20 minutes. You'll get extra soothing benefits of releasing tired feet, relaxing your lower body if you've been on your feet a lot, giving your heart a rest. It's a very gentle, mild inversion. There's lots of benefits from that too. And if you find that lying here, your chin is tilting back, it's best to have your chin a little bit toward your chest, and that's where you can even take a blanket, a small pillow. I'll show you with my small narrow block under your head so that your chin can tilt slightly toward your head, your chest. You have a little bit of pressure on the occipital lobes at the back of the skull. That pressure helps to release an effect in the body that, again, fosters the relaxation response. You can enhance that by slowly exhaling each breath. No need to even worry about the inhale. Inhale naturally, and then extend a longer, slower exhale. Let's do that 3 more times together, and again, you can stay here as long as you'd like. Inhale naturally, exhale long, slow. Inhale, exhale long, slow. Maybe even pursing your lips to do that. Inhale effortlessly, long, slow, last exhale. And then remember, you can stay, or if you choose to transition with me, you can roll both legs to one side. You can take your legs to either side of your chair. Use your arms either on your side, on your forearms, to help yourself up to any comfortable seated position. I hope that this yin class was relaxing, it helped you soothe your hips, and as we stayed in the postures, helped you soothe your mind as well. If you'd like more from me, I'll link to some other yin practices I have up here. You can try my other full-length yoga practices as well. If there's something else you need, please let me know in the comments. I actually respond to requests. Let me know and I will give it a shot. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day.